We're having a conversation on the state of politics, specifically on the church donations and the ban by the Catholic Church on weights of cash that is donated to churches, and also banning politicking at the pulpit. And just to probably just close on this conversation, I don't know, I'm seeing a lot of people here coming to the defense of individuals who have decided to give donations and saying this is from their own as an individual. Don't take them as a politician, but as an individual, you know, giving out money to churches. So it is with a clean heart. Ben?
Yes, I want to carry on from what Gabriel was saying.
Yes.
About why it has been impossible, for instance, to locate or even confiscate or even destroy some of the properties that are known that were stolen from the public. But I normally stick to this analogy, and Gabriel knows. Corruption in this country is like the four of us here seated with our shoestrings tied together. So the minute you move one, then you'll move the entire lot. And that is the tragedy with corruption in this country. Since June 2018, the president, while in Mombasa, ordered for lifestyle audit, and he stated that he's going to begin with himself. I wish perhaps Gabriel can guide me where I can go read that report about the president, because he stated that he was going to start with himself, then ikuje kwa huyu, alafu iende kwa yule, and that kind of things. So it makes the war on corruption actually lose credibility in the public eye, because and you remember, actually, the conversation around lifestyle audit was beginning to pick traction until some segments of politicians insisted that we must begin in 1963. And definitely that's an area most of the people we have in our political leadership cannot afford to touch. So it died a natural death. So we are going to continue seeing a lot of this tanga-tangaing with a lot of boldness and a lot of arrogance, because you know, the corruption in this country has almost engulfed everybody. So it is very difficult today to find one person, especially within the political leadership, who can stand and say, I want to lead this because I know I am clean from A, B, C, D. You've seen even cases recently, you've seen even MPs currently are opposed to the to amendments to the anti-corruption bill 2019 because of the punitive measures that have been proposed. That tells you that the political class is the biggest impediment to the war on corruption. Politicians are the same ones who watered down the provisions of Chapter 6. That's why I still maintain, I have not yet identified anything wrong with the current constitution. What we are being treated to is theatrics and circuses by individuals who have not even implemented a fraction of the current constitution, and because they are escaping responsibility, they start telling us, oh, you know, now we need to create another layer and another layer of chapati. We can't create a government looking like a chapati. What we need is service delivery and accountability, which is entirely lacking. When you look at areas of pilferage of public resources, the Auditor General report has continued to give us, as recently as last year, we have close to R1 trillion that cannot be accounted for, coming from both levels of government. So this money is what is eventually finding its way into churches and all this manner of schemes, yet or in institutions that are charged with ensuring that there is accountability, or even demanding accountability from individuals who are accused of mismanagement, also playing politics. Actually, I think it is Mark who was mentioning we have the National Land Commission and all that. Yet we have the immediate former chair who was accused of all manner of things, and he was even involved in inflating costs, compensation costs in some areas. So it is an untidy web. Recently you saw the State House is indicating that they have failed to approve judges or to appoint judges because of corruption concerns. Yet the judiciary is supposed to be our last corner where we go to seek refuge, when now we can't find justice anywhere, but now corruption has infiltrated everywhere. It's like now we are, it's like the multi-headed ogre or a dragon. Now it is in every corner and it is eating everybody. So now it is impossible to know which head to cut and which one to retain. Yes.
And I'll ask you, Gabriel, how would you rate the fight against graft in the country?
Honestly,
at
I
this
think,
point?
Honestly, I think a lot has been done. That one I can tell without fear of contradiction. Just the other day, I think it was Mark and I that were looking at actually some of even the cases that the government has prosecuted. I never thought I would see governors actually being hauled in and out of the court, of the justice system. I never thought I would see CSs lose their jobs, right? I never thought. But look, today, what the government has done, and the president in particular, they have pushed a narrative, again, that nobody is above the law. And the president went on a tangent himself to say that I know when these people come for you, you'll do your best to make phone calls to me. Yes. I will not answer. That is a president who is serious about the war on corruption. I hope we can continue that trajectory. I hope more heads will roll, but most importantly, I hope people start serving serious jail terms. That is the only time Wanjiku will actually see that the war on corruption is being fought.
So if we want to argue about whether the fight of corruption is real, then it depends on what matrices you're using. If your source of news is people who are tangatangaing and kielewekaing, then there's nothing being done. But in their view, the only thing that is done in churches, right? They will tell you there are no roads even built. Yet if you drive any direction in Nairobi, any direction, pick you're going north, south, east, west, Nairobi is literally a construction site. And that should tell you that your country is changing. But what is the problem? The problem is we want to mix the fight against corruption with our political interests. So we try to say that the fight against corruption is about 2022. It isn't. Because the truth of the matter is Kimwarero on a fault line. It is. Will 2022 change the fault line? No, it won't. And that's the problem that we keep perpetuating, that we keep bringing political thinking into a logical discourse. For example, politicians will say, unless you arrest all corrupt people, you're not fighting corruption. Now my question is, if 10 people come and steal from you and the police catch 2, will you not take those 2 to prison? Or you say, no, the other 8 are not here, so let's not try the case. You know, we have such ridiculous, basic, childish logic in this country. Like, for example, a senior politician in this country will stand up and say that the technical committee on Kimwarer and Aror is wrong. And what is his reason they are wrong? His reason they are wrong is that there was no person from his tribe in that technical committee. So now we want a country where when the weather forecast is being done, I must do the Luya one, Gabe does the Kikuyu one, and then now Mulwa does the Kikamba one, because we can only trust science that comes from our tribe. Now we want science to be inclusive. So gravity should be different in Kalenjin land, different in Kikuyu land, because those are the kind of logic that we keep perpetuating in this country. Then someone will say, oh my goodness, they are targeting our side. My friend, if I decide to catch rats, and then you say, oh my goodness, you are targeting us, are you a rat? That's the question. Because you can only set a trap to catch the thing that it's set for. So you cannot say someone has set a trap for a rat, then I say it is for me. I must, but of necessity, then become a rat. So you cannot say that the fight against corruption is targeted at certain people. Because if you're going to say it is targeted at thieves. And if you're a thief...
I want to challenge Mark. Number one, I want you to show me at the CBK, a statement by the CBK, that in 1.5 trillion shillings is a lot of money. I want a statement from the Central Bank of Kenya showing that we have repatriated 1.5 trillion shillings. That is number one. Number two, are you aware that that money came into through funny channels that KRA currently cannot even locate over 800 billion of what is alleged to have come in? That tells you that it was a scheme that was designed again to perpetuate what you're trying to fight. The same corruption, the same disconnect in terms of government operations, whereby we are losing more than actually we are able to collect. When you talk about infrastructure, I have no qualms at all. In fact, I love what I'm seeing in terms of road infrastructure and development. But my issue has always been, are we getting value for money? Since Kibaki left office, that was just the other day in 2013, the average cost of doing a road, a standard road, used to be about 100 million shillings per kilometer. Under Jubilee today, the average cost of doing a similar road is anything between 1.1 and 1.6 trillion shillings. No, billion shillings per kilometer. So you wonder whether they are constructing these roads under Jubilee with yogurt and and unga ngano and eggs, because that is what can make it that expensive. It is only kokoto and bitumen and changarawe that is coming from Likoni. There is no justification whatsoever for that cost to go up by 1,000% in the last 7 years. So the issue, eventually, why we are not, and Mwananchi cannot identify with all this in infrastructure activity is, and there's also another problem. If you now take time to look at the property development index in this country, most of the recent developments now are being undertaken by foreigners. Why? Because these people who are giving out these road contracts and infrastructure contracts to foreigners, they're actually cutting away money. Literally, they're carrying money in wheelbarrows from this economy to China or any other destination. They're importing cement from China. They're importing, even now they have started fixing the footbridges on Outer Ring Road. Those footbridges were not fabricated in Kariobangi. They were done in China. Basic fabrication of metal. So those are the basic things where we have a problem. Because I would not have a problem with the properly done Outer Ring Road with footbridges and even underpasses, but whereby it is adding value to this economy.
Okay.
No, as it is, actually, there is a problem.
Ben,
yes.
on that, I fully agree with you that the infrastructure being developed must benefit the economy. And actually, by law, much of the material must come from this country. But let's just remember one thing. The cost of building infrastructure in this country has not been inflated by the government. It's been inflated by an independent commission called the NLC. Okay, which, by the way, our court set someone free, and then the next week certain servers disappeared from a server. Let me finish my statement. Yes. If you look at the cost of SGR or the cost of Ketraco connecting the power grid, okay, what has happened to the prices of land? Someone bought a piece of land 2 days ago at 750,000 because they learned that SGR is passing here or the Ketraco is building power, the pylons here. Right. And then the price jumps from 750,000 to 100 million per acre. Okay, see, and now in collision with Swazuri's commission, as it were, allegedly, that piece of land extends, and the price of our infrastructure has been increased because of NLC. And that is why Kenyans need to watch very, very carefully these new NLC commissioners, because the truth of the matter is this: where the rain began to beat us is where NLC decided to inflate the cost of our land.
Okay,
very quickly,
Ben,
Mark, I want to point out an anomaly in your argument. When you say NLC, it's like now, last week I saw the Cabinet Secretary Transport calling off the movement of that directive that dictated transporters to use SGR against trucks or other alternatives. And then there was a breaking news outline that the government suspends directive by KRA and KPA. Then you begin to ask exactly who is the government. Is KRA not government? Is KPA not government? Is CS Macharia not government? NLC is also government. No. NLC is not. Just a moment. Just a moment.
I think
the reason I'm saying that
it is to a different kind of direction.
Just a moment. A second. Yes,
okay.
A second.
It's an independent commission.
Whether it is collusion with the NLC or by the Treasury or by any other quarters that actually, because they're not private citizens like myself, whether it is collusion by whoever, what we have ended up with, the result we have ended up as citizens is that this inflation, and I'll give you a specific example. The American government just the other day pulled out of the Mombasa-Nairobi Expressway. Why? Because CS Macharia and his team at Transport inflated that cost almost 3 times. Then they were like, I mean, this doesn't make sense. But the Chinese initially were excited. That's why we ended up with an exorbitant SGR that will take us 1 million years to recover the cost. And many other similar projects. We have Turkana Wind Power where we are paying money, where we are not getting value for the same. So until we inculcate a culture of individuals taking responsibility and patriotism, it takes just basic patriotism, whereby Gabriel agrees. I mean, I don't need to punish Kenyans by increasing the cost of this road from Mombasa from 100 billion to 300 billions because I just want to eat the two of us. And agree, let's do the right thing.
All right,
because that is for the prosperity of even your kids.
Okay.
Yes.
And before that, and before we end even the conversation, I know Martin Mwaura, who is in Murang'a County, is also speaking on the same, on church donations, politics, and the state of corruption in the country. Martin, a very good morning to you.
Yes, well, thank you so much, Zainab. as I've rightly said, yes, on the streets of County 021 here, it's a bright Monday morning. And just to delve on the topic that is ongoing at the studio, I just want to talk to residents here just to give me their views. Do they support what the church has said about not accepting donations from some of the politicians in this country? Welcome to NTV.
All right, there you have it, Martin Moura, but we have to apologize for the pictures there. We'll be joining Martin Moura later on in our next show, NTV Sasa, as he fixes that a bit of technical hitch there, network problems. But away from that and the conversation that we're having, I'd like us to just shift the conversation a bit forward. And the story here on the Daily Nation. So dredging continues as some MPs in Jubilee partly fault Raila's order. So the dredging at the port of the Mombasa is still on course despite Africa Union's envoy Raila Odinga ordering a halt of the same to improve visibility to assist in the recovery of the body of a woman and her daughter who drowned a week ago. Now on Saturday, Mr. Odinga asked the Kenya Ports Authority to stop the dredging operations at the port because it had greatly hampered the visibility in the ocean. But then here you have members of parliament from the Jubilee saying Raila Odinga does not have the authority to speak on this matter. I'll start with you, Gabriel, because you've been quite quiet. I mean, so you have it, but look at it this way as well, yeah? So already 2 Kenyans have lost their lives.
Yes.
And then you bring in politics into this
Right.
at such a sensitive time.
Right. First of all, let's be very clear. You know, like somebody said, we are no longer attempting to actually save any lives at this point. We are trying as a nation to recover. And we've been told even by, you know, the professionals who are actually on ground, they are saying, you know, things have actually been murky given the depth. And forget the dredging or anything, just the depth itself just tells you it is very hard for anybody to see anything visually when it gets to that particular depth. But having said that, even before we jump to this tragic, this is a woman and her daughter. Let us not forget that in fact, just a week removed, we lost 7 children here in Dagoretti.
Yes. 7.
Right? So we have a national conversation that we need to be talking about. How are we moving forward when things this tragic befall this country? If you're seated in the coast, the people in Nairobi will tell you, wow, it seems now everything has shifted.
True.
To the woman and the daughter, albeit tragic. All right? We are all praying for the recovery efforts to be fruitful. And I have seen the government is actually currently banning the midnight oil to even find other people. I've heard Governor Joho was looking for experts from South Africa and what have you. But the issue of bringing in politics, as you've rightly put it, I think it's worse than anything else. This is something which should actually be bringing us together to find solutions, not tearing us apart to start thinking or wearing our political lenses. In fact, we are causing more pain to the families of the departed when we actually enter into such shenanigans. Whether Raila spoke or gave orders, you know, and I've seen people who are actually hurling all types of insults. Raila would have spoken probably on 2 fronts. One, as the common man, even Ben himself can go there in Mombasa and say, the government should stop, you know, as the Mwananchi.
Yes.
He is given that mandate to question
Absolutely.
the government
Yes.
as a Mwananchi. All right? So whether Raila was doing it as a Mwananchi or as an opposition leader or somebody who's friendly to government as we speak, or, you know, the AU envoy, you know, we should actually not look at it from the lenses of, you know, it's a political punch. No. But also, something quite as close as, do we need to stop the dredging now, given the fact that, you know, we are saying it's an issue, but the depth even in itself, specialists and the people who know about, you know, marine rescue are telling you, even if that was not happening, we would still, the undercurrent is too much. Yes, we are fighting to ensure that we recover, you know, the car, but even without the drenching, it would still be as hard. Is it something now we need to sit down and just listen to professionals and remove politicians from the scene. And I think that's the best way to go. Let's leave this to the specialists and the people who are trained to do it, to just carry out their to carry out their work. When when planes go down, hardly do you see politicians coming to give you analytical views.
Right.
Because what happens is that professionals are brought to the ground.
Left to work.
Oh yes, and it's them that will bring and give out the final report. I think for the sake of the departed's family, and those people who would really be looking for answers, because at this point the government must get answers. The Mwananchi in Mombasa and in Kenya must also get those answers. I included, and Mark Bichache will also want to have these answers so that we can ascertain how do we prevent these occurrences again. Currently, as you've seen on video, it's still an accident looking for a place to happen. The way the people are running ferries, the way the cars are still, being parked in that ferry. So I think even as we speak, there is need for your answer to be answered in its totality, and that would mean we divorce politics from national tragedies.
All right.
Absolutely.
Ben, yes.
A very quick one. First, this is really a disaster that again brings to sharp focus our preparedness and our capacity to respond and manage disasters as a country. We had Solai Dam, we had we had recently what happened in the Hell's Gate. We had the school here in Nairobi. We have this. We have road accidents and all that. And most of the times, it really calls out the inefficiencies and incompetencies that are displayed by some of the people tasked with this. And to back up what Gabriel is saying, last week I was privileged to be a part of the team that went around the Nairobi International Trade Fair with the president to different stands. And we were in the company of top civil servants in this country. And one of them actually pointed out something that was very interesting when we visited the KDF, stand. When the president walked in, he was taken through the entire stand of the innovations and what KDF is doing by the officers who are responsible for those stands, very junior officers. What was outstanding was that the entire military leadership, the service commanders from Kenya, Navy, Army, and Air Force were actually standing very far back there, and they never interrupted. And this is one thing that is completely lacking in all the other sectors of public service, whereby professionals are not allowed to be able to handle issues that are related to them. Suddenly now we are bringing in the issue of dredging in terms of that dredging has nothing to do with the inefficiencies of Kenya Ferry Services in failing to maintain serviceable ferries for the safety of Mwananchi. One of the key things we have also to agree that dredging has been a complaint. In fact, what Raila did is exactly what the Kwale residents have done. They went to court in June to stop the ongoing dredging because it is destroying marine life and the coral reef that is around that particular area. But for people to start attacking Raila, it is neither here nor there because those are the busybodies I was telling you who are always looking for other things to talk about because they can't talk about what they are paid to do every day. And going forward, I think that culture needs to be reintroduced. And there's also been a problem in terms of the management of most of the public organizations, especially in the coast, whereby locals demand that a local must be put there, however incompetent or however unqualified that person may be. Because if you listened to the MD, Kenya Ferry Services, he looks like somebody who has just woken up and he's told something happened here and he has no clue what happens in that particular organization. We need reorganization, especially in public service, whereby merit and competence takes precedence over basic narrow interests. Because that is actually
responsibility.
There are individuals, and this has to begin. I've challenged this many times. This has to begin with the president himself. He tells us that this handshake is supposed to build national unity, but start looking at the composition of his cabinet. Start looking at all the appointments he has made of chairpersons of parastatals in this country.
If it does not,
if it does not reflect national unity, then there is no way we are going to expect that at the village level when it is not coming from the national level.
Let me say this. The classification of this as an accident is a misnomer. If I build a school using chicken wire and it falls apart, it is not an accident. It is a matter of fact. If you build something badly, it will fall apart. It is not rocket science. If you have a ferry, which after you board, the boarding ramp is still like this, it is not like this. Come on. And this is, what are we calling a disaster? A disaster is when rain comes from heaven and floods. That's a disaster. But you cannot drive drunk and call it an accident. It's called drunk driving. You understand? So in this country, what we need to address, forget about dredging and exhuming cars from the bottom of the sea. The thing we need to address is Kenya Ferry Services.
Public policy failure?
Yes. And I don't understand why people are talking about Raila, or Raila said this and that. Why aren't they talking about why that ferry allowed those 2 people to die? Why aren't they talking about is a ferry service that does not have a speedboat to rescue people? Why are they talking about that lady was not even warned on how to park her car, how to be safe, how to leave her door open if she must stay in the car, how to get out if necessary? Why aren't we talking about that? Those are the issues that really matter, and this is the problem of entrusting serious issues to children. Because all they want to talk about is childish issues. What are you discussing? Or Raila said this, that's what you want to get angry about. People died. That did not affect you. Your coffee was still the same. You went and breathed the same. You ate the same. But the day Raila speaks, that is when it bugs you. That is the problem with this country. That those are the kind of people we have leading us. They've said nothing about the ferry. Did they say anything?
No.
They've said nothing. They've not said nothing about the people who are risking their lives at this very moment, either boarding that ferry without life jackets, by the way, and crossing that channel today, and they're busy concerned about what Raila.
To give him a chance to just speak on the matter as well. Martin, a very good morning to you. I know you had a problem with the network, but thank you so much for joining us on NTV Today. What more can you give us from that side? All right, I understand then we can't be able to have Martin Maura right now. So yeah, yes, Gabriel.
What Mark said. And this, now you see the importance of divorcing politics from national tragedies. If you allow our politicians,
they divorced something. They divorced thinking from politics.
If you allow these people to continue, actually these are shenanigans will be tweeted too. Right now, I'm even shocked. You know, the names of yes, you can hear the name of Raila is somebody there. Nobody has brought in the president. Soon you'll hear Ruto's name being pumped in there. You see, that is how low we've come. I wish, like what you said, we were talking about public policy. I wish we would have been talking about everybody going into the ferry. There's a social responsibility, and I think that is something so key. Let me give you an example, Mark. Where I lived when I was going to uni, the area that we lived had lakes. And as part of social responsibility, you're actually shown and you're told graphically how to save yourself from a drowning car, right? This is part of counties' social responsibility, and you have to attend. Some places, and you've had, if you have relatives living abroad, they'll tell you before you even bring a child, a babysitter, this babysitter must actually know first aid. Absolutely. They must pass. So there's still that element that needs to be incorporated into policy, that people know some of these things when a car rolls, because it may happen. These are accidents. Okay. Same way you are given a security briefing when you board, a plane. It's usually the same thing. So these are part of learning that we should never depart from. So when a mother is in the car, in a ferry, in the back of their mind, they should have that survival and tactical skill that should anything happen, this is what I need to be doing. So even as we try to, meander through the tragedies that are befalling us this year, and Ben has actually, mentioned some, whether it's through accidents, whether it's through classrooms falling down, whether it's through the
question is, are we never going to learn?
And that's my question.
See, that's
it seems
where are you going to learn?
Yes.
Where in the mind of your leaders, the biggest tragedy is that Raila spoke. When are you going to learn? You see, you need to understand one thing. In life, you keep the main thing the main thing. Kenya is interested, eternally obsessed with sideshows. Look at how we campaign. If you ask a Kenyan to close their eyes and think what were they promised in 2017, they will remember Tibim, Tialala, Wembe ni ule ule. That's all they remember. Let me tell you, someone commented this and it is true. If you look at our leaders, when they go speak to their diaspora out there and they articulate policy and interest rates and the rate of repatriation of funds, they understand those things. But when they come to talk to you here, ukienda Nyayo Stadium, what do they tell you? Wembe ni ule ule. You know, that's all. So for as long as the Kenyans' expectation of a politician is an entertainer, so they must come dance for you, pay you to come to attend their thing, and then come to your church to donate. For as long as that is the total expectation of a Kenyan, then this country will continue to fail. Because as a leader today, if I wanted to run for MP, then all I need to do is start going to churches, donating money, then you will vote for me. So the problem is not just the politician. The problem is that we have created a population that has zero expectation from people. Let me ask you a question. The people who voted in Sonko, Waititu, and all these other people, what was their expectation? No, what was their expectation? When Sonko dresses like Snoop Dogg at the airport, he's doing what he's always done. The tiger has not changed his stripes. You understand? So you cannot separate the voter when he has no expectation on his vote. I always wonder, look at demonstrations in this country, any demonstration. We will walk to parliament where there are singers who think Tanzanians should be kicked out. Those are the guys inside. And then the guys outside are professors. So in which world do professors wait for people who think immigration is solved by a roadside declaration to think on their behalf?
All right.
Very
quickly as we wind up. Very quickly, yes.
2 seconds. First, I want to respond.
Very quickly.
No, you have to.
Yes,
I knew he
about
had to.
Sonko, because you know we cannot just be saying things without facts. It is.
Does he dress like Snoop Dogg?
No, it is in the public domain that actually Nairobi as a county has experienced unprecedented development that even Professor Nyang' Nyong'o and Professor Lonyangapuo and Professor Kibwana cannot match in the last 2 years combined. Those are facts that are available. Those are not stories. So people elected Sonko to perform as governor, and he has actually outdone that capacity.
Really?
No,
I think that's subject to.
No, he has and I can actually prove that. Yes, I can actually prove that. In terms of roads infrastructure, in terms of healthcare facilities, go to Pumwani Hospital today. It looks like Nairobi Hospital. Go to the same facilities in other counties, and you'll be surprised. Look at the road. Even I'm sure where you are residing today.
We have to end this now. We have to end this now, Ben.
Yeah, because
the ending jingle has been.
But we have to agree that really, and he has brought in a mind shift in terms of leadership. It is not so much about the academia. We have Kidero launched 7 master plans for Nairobi when he was governor.
Academia. No,
Yes.
no. Education must count for something.
I know we are completely out of time. I think we have to end it now. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. Ben Mulwa, governance expert, Gabriel Mudhuma, political analyst, and Mark Bichachi, political strategist. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And that's where we end it here. NTV Sasa is coming right up your way with Salim Swale. You do not want to miss that. My name is Zainab Ismail. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good morning.